So I found this insane looking transmog item, but it was super unfortunate because when I tried to buy it, the item was not found.
So how much gear have you crafted this week?
I think around 10 per character, I'd say.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
I did all the quests in the zone, so I got some extra embellishments. Oh, I mean some extra crests.
Yeah.
But you know what? The first thing I did, I logged on my evoker and then I crafted 2 necks and 1 ring, and then I just stared at my screen for like 2 minutes. And then I realized it doesn't really matter, but it was a good start to waste the aspects or the quests I've been working so hard on.
What do you mean waste?
Yeah, I crafted 2 nicks and 1 ring on
Oh,
the same
2
character.
necks and one. Oh no! My brain even corrected what you said because it. Okay, that's actually unfortunate though.
I'm not really sure how I did it. I mean, I didn't pay close attention, and then I was super confused as to where my other ring was, and then I was looking through the crafting orders, and it just it was a bit unfortunate, but luckily it's not a big deal. I'll be able to craft fully either way, so it doesn't really matter.
I mean, the guy who made your second neck must have thought like this guy, man, he wants double the same neck. He's just going full crazy here.
Yeah, the exact same neck as well. He didn't even notice because I wrote to him after, and yeah, I guess he's also just pumping orders. You know, they're probably getting gold left and right. You know.
Yeah, of course.
How about you? Did you do all your crafts?
No, I didn't do all of them. I did a bunch of them on both my characters, but no, not all of them yet. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to wait for the next week's round of crests as well, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I did all the ones that I could, so I'm like 586 item level or something now.
Yeah, I
But
think that's where my characters are at as well, with all of them crafted that I could this week.
okay, yeah, well that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I could get some more from some more crafts if I did the reputation, or like got some renown crests
Yeah.
further. But I'll get those. I've just been busy with other things as well. Did you craft any embellishments or just the flat pieces?
I did craft embellishment on all the characters as well, mainly because there's very little cost to recrafting in case you need to swap them. But I did the standard weapon enchant, whatever it's called, the one I think TPS craft as well, and then I didn't craft the amplifying supporting one. I just crafted the crit above 80%. I'm not sure if it's the best, like individually, they seem the best, but that also means that the weapon enchant with double the effect would be better. But I wouldn't think I'd be playing with a crafted weapon once you get gear, so I'm not really sure how I'll start.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention the recraft, that you can always recraft because you couldn't for several days.
Okay.
There was some sort of bug where you just could not recraft. You could send crafting orders and everything. You could send a recraft order, and the guy on the other end could pick it out and everything, and they could click the craft, but nothing would happen when they tried to craft it. And so that
And that
actually
must be fixed.
yeah, it's fixed now. It's fixed now, but it was like that for like several days before they fixed
Okay.
it. There were a bunch of threads on like the forums and Reddit and stuff about it. But I actually got screwed by it because I crafted the embellishment on weapon, like the Dark Moon Sigil Ascension, which I think is the same one you crafted probably.
Yeah.
And then I crafted on my bracers, I crafted the one that doubles the effect of that one. But then I remembered, wait, for some time I'm going to have the PvP bracers and the PvP waste, which I guess we're going to be touching on later probably. But I'm going to have those. And so then I was like, wait, I shouldn't have crafted it on bracers. I wanted to move it to the cloak. And then so I crafted a cloak, and then I was going to just take it away from my bracers, but I couldn't. So for like at least a day or two after I got, and I couldn't use all my items that I had crafted since I had 3 embellishments and I couldn't get them off of my bracers because the recraft didn't work. So that was kind of kind of annoying. But yeah, now it's resolved and I have all my gear on, and there's no worry anymore with that. So that's good at least.
Did you notice that some of the items didn't require metal or whatever the new metal is called, like the reagent to recraft?
No, I didn't really think about that.
I have no clue if it's fixed, and I have no clue how many items that were affected, but the int staff for sure didn't cost any metal to recraft. So when I saw that on my first craft, I figured I'm just gonna craft everything. It seems to be free to recraft. And then it wasn't, but you can get like 250 of whatever the resource is called by just talking to a guy behind the work order station. So
Yeah, you mean the acuity, right?
yeah, acuity. And I'm basically in the position where I might have to recraft because I put the item I put the 80 above 80% crit embellish on. I might have to recraft or not. So it's gonna be. It doesn't really matter either way.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't really think about that because I only did the one recraft and it just worked, and then I didn't really look into it more. But yeah, that's kind of interesting that you could recraft for free, essentially. Oh, well, I mean, just the mats.
Yeah. Did you farm any specific gear? I know some people were farming trinkets.
Yeah, I farmed since obviously I have two warriors, so I needed the same trinket on both of them, and I actually have like for the entirety of season one, my BIS trinkets will be double dungeon trinkets. So I had to I had to farm the same two trinkets on both my characters. So I think pretty much like everyone else, I farmed the trinket from the first boss in Arakara, like the sack blood, whatever it's called, the egg trinket. And then there's a strength trinket from the Stone Vault from the second boss. It's just like a 90-second on use trinket. And those are pretty much the best trinkets you can get. I think when the season comes out, there's going to be like a pretty much exactly the same on use 90-second trinket, but from another dungeon that is slightly better statted. But almost the same. So yeah, I'm gonna use those for sure, like for the entire season, unless they like buff something in the raid or something. So I made sure to grab those on both of my warriors, but I managed to get it before they made this change where you could no longer leave the after the first boss and not get deserter when you specific queued into dungeons.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember people in the guild were upset when that got removed, or at least someone. But I mean, it's kind of a minor. I'm guessing a lot of people did it. It is an exploit for sure, but it's a very minor exploit.
Yeah. I mean, exploit. I don't even know. Like it's. I think they probably didn't. Or I don't know how it works. I guess like if you kill a boss, you're allowed to leave or something. I don't know. I think they just didn't intend people to do it this way. I didn't think this would happen. I don't know.
Well, the thing that I'm pretty sure usually happens is that if you leave after killing a boss, you don't get the deserter. But from the moment you accepted the queue, you normally get like a 15-minute timeout before you can start the next dungeon, unless you kill the last boss. But maybe this didn't happen when you queue a specific dungeon, because it does happen when you queue a random dungeon.
Okay, yeah, that could be it. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people being very up in arms about this from both sides on Twitter. I saw this week, like a lot of people being angry about either people leaving or people complaining about other people leaving.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least for me, I mean, I go in as tank and I have insta queue, and I understand that it sucks for those people, but I mean, they get a new tank pretty much right away. And to be fair, like for a majority of those runs, I'm doing more damage on my tank in those up until and including the first boss that I'm killing. I'm doing more damage than the rest of the entire group together, you know. So it's not like, oh, these people are coming here doing such a great job. I'm just like I'm like brutally carrying them to the first boss, and then I'm leaving them. So of course, yeah, it's a slight asshole move, but again, I don't feel like I owe them anything to spend the entire play the entire dungeon and effectively like boost them in a heroic dungeon, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. But that trinket was actually Giga for you as a DPS, right?
Yeah, it seems like that's pretty much the best trinket for everyone. I think for DPS, it's
Okay.
just really good because it's like stat agnostic, or it's not stat agnostic, but it's like it's changing stats to every main stat, and then it has haste. So unless you like hate haste or something, because no one hates main stat, right? But someone could
Yeah.
potentially hate haste, but most people don't hate haste, and especially not in the first tier of an expansion, right? Usually haste is pretty nice.
Well, that's kind of interesting because as a healer, it's kind of reversed. I'm not sure. Like Disc loves haste. Maybe And Resto Druid as well. Maybe Mistweaver does, but the only one. They are the only ones who like it. The rest of the healers don't really care about haste. So I remember I was looking at the questionably epic sims for the trinkets, which is like the healer version of a scuffed sim. And the two best Dark Moon trinkets are better than the sack or whatever that egg trinket is called, until it gets to like 590-ish, depending on which class I checked. So I never really bothered with the farm, and even now it's such a, since the Dark Moon trinket seems to be as good as they are for healers. I'm not really too fussed about grinding it out, especially after they fixed the leaving bug or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, and I mean, healing trinkets are the one item in the raid where the healer is probably going to have priority on anyway, right? So, I mean, if healer trinkets actually drop, you might be able to get some, as if you compare it to other pieces of gear where you're probably going to be last in line to get items anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there are any good healer trinkets, but I might be mistaken. They haven't been good. Like, healer trinkets have been really bad for most of the last 6 years or something, but they've been better in Dragonflight, and I think it's only Dragonflight that you've had like as designated healer trinkets being good. Otherwise, you just sort of use the off stat, main stat, whatever, passive equip, doesn't matter. Like the generic trinkets that doesn't do any direct damage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to like, you know, the Rashok trinket, right? Molten Heart or whatever it's called, right? That was
Yeah.
like insanely good trinket. And I think there were some other trinkets as well the healers were using from the raid that were actually like healing trinkets, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm probably misremembering, but I know like Razok was actually absurdly strong. And then there were the mana trinket from Blackrock Hole that was used by some specs. I
Yeah.
don't think it was ever busted, but it was a really great way of getting mana if you didn't have an abundance of innervates or such.
Didn't people also sometimes use the what's it called, Shield Globe or something from Vault of the Incarnates? Was that also like some sort of mana trinket, or maybe people didn't
Yeah,
use it? Yeah.
that was okay for season 1, but that was mainly due to the damage. Like there were some DPS specs that wanted it as well. You basically chucked a... I can't actually remember how it worked exactly, but you did direct damage with it and you got mana back under some conditions. But there were two components of it, so I'm not sure which
Okay.
one limited it to be used. Like on-use damage trinkets are usually great for healer and DPS if you care about damage, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, usually they'll be just as good for a healer as for a DPS, right?
Yeah.
So that would mean, at least from a DPS perspective, that they're way better for the healer, because DPS could get more from some other trinket, but healer couldn't really get much value from like a on-use main stat trinket or something in the same way a DPS could. So that kind
Yeah,
of makes sense.
not for the damage component at least.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. To change the topic slightly, have you thought about like you know that we have like two types of crests that are active now? It's like the weathered harbinger crest or whatever they're called, the lowest ones that you get from heroic dungeons, and then there's the carved crests, which are like M plus levels 1, 2, and 3 or something, I think, and normal raid.
Yeah, I
But
might
you,
just say LFR crest and normal crest.
oh yeah, that might be for LFR and normal crest, but yeah, sure. And so obviously the lowest level crest is the one that you can use to craft stuff now, right? If you craft everything 590. But the carved crests, so that would be the normal raid level crests, you can't really get them. You can get them from like renown, and then there are some like weekly quests or something, I think, that you get some of them. But the sort of seasonal cap has been active from the start. So right now you have a cap of 180, and by the time heroic week comes around, you're going to have a cap of 360 of those crests. And that just seems really weird, because if you imagine that that would have happened for a crest that we care more about, it would be like super weird where you had like all the crests you would almost want for the entire season you can just get from the start. There's effectively no cap.
Yeah, that's I hadn't thought about it. Are we sure it doesn't, like it shouldn't apply to the other quests, but
I mean, we can't.
There would be a possibility, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about it because you can't know, because since you don't have. I mean, maybe there's some sort of API like thing in the game that you can ping and actually check. I don't know, but at least from the like GUI in the game, you can't see anything. You can just see the crests that you have in your currency tab, and you can hover over them and you can see the cap.
You can probably see them if you go to the enchanting vendor, where you can buy the crest version that you use for crafting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can
It's,
see the cap when you hover on a vendor, but maybe you can. I'm not sure.
it's probably not like that, but it is weird that the normal crest is already starting to get.
Yeah,
It's capped.
there's no way to get them, right, like at a like you can get some of them, but you can't really get any of them, right? I mean, I think I have like 100 or something of those. So that's, I don't know, that's just really weird, and that's gonna maybe incentivize. I was doing some math about on this the other day or during the weekend, looking at like if I should start downgrading a bunch of those crests.
Yeah.
So like like if I already full crafted everything to 590 and I want to upgrade my trinkets all the way to 590 as well instead of 580, which is free, or well, free, but only cost valor stones. Would it be worth to do that? And I looked at it, and more or less you can safely downgrade quite a few carved crests without really losing anything. Assuming you're gonna clear and split heroic raid and you've saved up delve keys and everything. Since if you get any item from the heroic raid or any item from the delves, then those items already completely bypass the carved crest. They have no interaction at all. And the only way really that you're going to spend your carved crest is if you get items in the normal raid that you want to upgrade, which I'm not sure you're going to want to do anyway, since you're going to be able to. I mean, yeah, I guess that's one. Yeah, I guess you can just spend your carved crest on that. Like if you want to upgrade something randomly from the normal raid. But even then, it's not like you're going to have a full set of normal gear anyway. So I don't know. It just feels really weird that the cap is so high, and then there's, I don't know. It's just going to be no use for them, like even in the first week.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's mainly applicable to the people that are skipping the carved, like not doing heroic the first week or not doing keys high enough. But I know several people have started downgrading to get their item level up for their normal and heroic week now.
Yeah, so it's a bit weird to do it now, since you already have another week and cap of the weathered crests. So it's a bit troll maybe to do it now, unless they've already completely given up on, like they're refusing to do any reputation grind, I guess. Then they maybe want to do it because then they know that they're not going to get enough. But
I guess you can do some napkin math to assume that you wouldn't all of a sudden get like the third crest reward, and then maybe you could do it safely for the trinkets. But I'm guessing it's the like trinket manual upgrades and full craft in every other slot. That's what people are farming for or downgrading for. But it will be very minuscule even then. And even if you've done, like just by feel, I'd say that even if you've done a no renown above 4 or 6, so whenever you get the first reward, and you full craft your entire gear and you upgrade 2 trinkets to 590, if you are heroic raiding and doing decently high keys, I don't know when you start getting to hero track, but it's kind of early, right? At like 6 or 4 or wherever.
So hero track is like 610 is the bottom of hero track. And then that is also where the Harbinger crest, which is the Harbinger. Oh yeah, that's the heroic level crest as well. Yeah. So yeah.
But you surely will be able to full craft your gear and upgrade 2 trinkets to 590 without ever thinking about wasting normal crests if you're doing average raiding.
Yeah. I think.
And then if you want to min-max other pieces, like is there any items in the game that go above 590, or do you use the normal quest then?
Well, you can. I mean, you've seen this like pole arm that people are posting about. It can go higher. I think 604 or something. And there are some things you can do now because you could craft with your spark, and then you could actually craft, I think, with your carved crests instead. but I don't think it's possible to craft with a carved crest without using your spark. So if you want to do that, you would be pretty damn sure that that is the item you're going to craft, because you're actually going to be wasting your spark. Because obviously the crafting we're doing now is you can just disenchant those items. It doesn't matter, right? You can get new ones, but if you use your spark, you're not getting it back.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess that's
But
sort
I
of
think there are some things you could do where, because the gear we have now, or the gear you get out of heroics, you can upgrade to I think 93, but then the last one would be a normal crest, right?
Yeah.
But that would be kind of a safe thing to do on your split alts. Like I would assume that if you're 100% going to split with your second warrior, you could probably spend the good items to 593 as well without really risking anything. So I guess that'd be like the weapon and the trinket for sure, and then maybe some other pieces, because it's just 15 normal. I don't know how many you have access to if you've done some renown, but you should be able to get quite a few pieces up before you even step into the normal raid.
Yeah, I mean, it's only going to be the trinket, right? Because every other piece is crafted. You have full crafted gear plus trinkets at this point. So
Yeah, but you could just craft a pair of shoulders or something, and then you could upgrade. You could catch up heroic shoulders, heroic dungeon shoulders to 590, and then spend 15 normal crests to get it to 593.
Okay, I get.
I don't know if it would be worth to do it on the weapon, since there's a very good weapon embellishment right now. But like in general, you could get quite a few pieces to 593 before the heroic week reset even begins.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, if you, yeah, I mean, especially if you're willing to downgrade, you could get all of them pretty much, or well, however many
Use
you
the
want.
normal crests. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, have you? I mean, I know last time when we spoke about this, we said that we haven't really been doing delves. You had done 2, I think, or 3, and I had just done the
Yeah.
1. Have you done any delves this week?
No, not a single one that's outside a quest. Might have done some for the questing, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
How about you?
Yeah, I did a few, just 2 or 3 or something. I think 2, just because I wanted to push my delve. You're gonna have to unlock the delve levels one by one, I'm pretty sure. So on heroic week, you're gonna do a lot of delves to bring it up to level 8. So yeah, I did. I guess I did 2, just to like unlock level 4 delve for when it comes out. And I have to say, like, this is the worst content I've done in a very, very long time. I truly hope that the higher level of delves are more interesting, because it felt like it's an even more boring version of a scenario. It's just a scenario, but where you can't see the number of steps. It's horrendously boring, and you're just running around and do. Ugh, yeah, I don't want to be too negative on delves, because I'm assuming that it's not content that's really catering to me. But I just don't understand how anyone could enjoy that. It's the more boring version of a quest almost. I don't know. It was horrible. I was almost pulling my hair out when I was doing it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they won't be much more fun for us. I mean, it could be like, even if it was really difficult and rewarding in that sense, I don't think what you're doing is especially fun. Like pulling one mob, because I'd imagine if you do a higher delve, you just have to go even slower, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it will be trivial to do a high delve, but I don't think it's because of any real or any interesting skill check. It's just, I'm guessing you're gonna pull one mob at a time and kite some and just do a high delve real slow.
Yeah, because
But I'm
there's
not,
no. I mean, you can release, right, if you die, and there's no time limit or anything.
yeah, as far as I'm aware, you just enter and then you leave when you complete it or when you want to.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, you can just, like, if you really need to, right? You just go in and you just use drums or bloodlust or whatever, all your cooldowns, and then you just chill. Because it's not like anything is respawning or anything. It's not like Torghast where you had at least some form of time pressure. There's
I don't
absolutely
think so.
zero time pressure, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it does make sense for what everyone's thinking the content is for, like solo people not playing the game too much.
But is it even going to be fun for for the mold people? I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I'm just completely out of touch with what they like, but it just seems so boring.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I also don't know what happens if you do the same delve twice. If that's sort of if it's exactly the same experience, or if there's anything sort of being generated on each delve. I'm not sure if it's like, you have 10 delves or something in the expansion, and those are the only 10 experiences you can have. I haven't done the same one more than once, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll.
Yeah. I don't think we have any answers for elves here.
Yeah, I think
It
we're
feels
gonna
good,
find out a lot more on the heroic week, right? Because then we're
yeah.
gonna be forced to do delves for all of our saved up keys, right? So
Yeah, and there's way more interesting content you can do that's not elves, and that's
yeah.
comp stomp.
Oof, that
Have you
not
have you
very
been having
interesting,
fun?
but maybe a good starting point would be to just explain why we've been doing PvP this week, even.
Yeah, go ahead. I know you love it.
Yeah, okay. Well, turns out that someone figured out that if you grind out a bunch of honor, you can buy an item that allows you to put a gem slot on any piece of gear that is coming from PvP, so some form of PvP gear. And since you would need that on helm, bracers, and waist, that could have some value. Since it has a lot diminished value from what it would have had, since before you could do it on necks and rings, but now those are like just a crafted item that you're going to be able to buy from the auction house. So those slots are kind of discounted here. But basically what you can do is you grind out the honor to buy 2 of those things, the sockets, and then on the heroic week you play some rated PvP, and you get, I don't know how much conquest you need, but you can basically get enough conquest to buy both bracers and the waist. You socket both of them, you get a champion track gear, and then whenever you get any better item from the raid or later on from M plus or whenever that happens to be something you acquire, you just use your valor stones to freely upgrade them. We think at least that how that's going to work. And then you basically
Yeah,
all the way up to a 619, which is the top of the champion track, which is also 4 out of 6 of the hero track. Up until that point, you can then have a socketed item in both your waist and bracer, which is a pretty, I mean, it's not huge, but it's a pretty big thing to be able to have.
yeah,
With the only downside being that you would have to use a PvP statted item, which probably just going to have a lot of verse, I guess.
yeah. Verse plus something random. I mean, you can choose between 2 items in each slot. So wrists for plate, for example, might have verse mastery and verse haste, but not verse crit. But I guess it's the socket. You're basically side grading to a verse item and getting a socket.
Yeah, which definitely
Unless you like verse, but I don't think many specs prefer verse as a top 2 stat.
Yeah.
And yeah. But you only have to do 1 week of PvP to get it. Like it's obviously it's not great that there are cross rewards between PvP and PvE since it's so separated. This just seems to be a oversight from actually trying to make it better and separating PvP even more, and then they needed their own quest or their own socket system since they're not a part of the vault anymore. But it seemed to have had an impact on the PvE community.
Yeah.
But at least you get comp stomp for this week, right? Like it's literally PvE. You're not PvPing this week.
Well, kind of. I mean, it's not, it's not like the typical PvE, but of course, yeah, you're not actually playing against a person, but they're trying to be like a person, but they're pretty stupid. You gotta give them that. But they're actually tuned really high because they're already kitted out in gear, so they have like the NPCs have like 10 million HP or something. So it's not. I'm absolutely not going to say that it was hard, but I think compared to everyone's idea of what it's like to do comp stomp, it was pretty hard. And I was in a lot. It was never close that we would lose or anything, but it definitely wasn't like these 2-3 minute runs for most of the time. Most of them took a little bit longer, and we lost a base here and there and stuff. And I mean, especially since I heard that it was a lot worse on Horde. I didn't play on Alliance. I only played all of mine on Horde, but I guess more PvPers probably play Alliance.
Yeah, for sure. I think I didn't really have a deeper thought. I just really wanted to say that Comp Stomp is literally PvE.
Yeah, I mean,
So at least you only have to do 1 week, the Conquest week.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was lucky that that was the case. There was some other nice things you could do to get honor as well. I mean, there's like I think it's a weekly quest in Ashran where you just go in and you just kill like a few crabs and some dinosaurs on the beach or something. So you get
Okay.
like 50 of some resource, and then that completes a quest, and then you run and complete the quest inside of Ashran, and you get 1,000 honor. So that was pretty good. So I did that one on both my characters, and then there was obviously the weekly quests. If you could manage to get 1,500 honor in an epic BG, I think you could get a 500 bonus or something. So there was some stuff you could do, but yeah, mostly was just spamming Comstomp for the entire week.
Yeah, well, it's very easy and deterministic as well, right? You are going to win. It is a matter of if it's 2 minutes or 5.
Yeah, but
So,
more often than not, it was probably more than 10 minutes. Maybe I don't know.
oh, okay, then
Yeah,
Horde's really bad.
yeah. It was
Oh,
bad.
yeah.
It was bad. But I think it got better because I started doing it over the weekend when people started coming up with this, and definitely towards the end, like on Sunday or whatever, I felt that it was definitely more. It definitely started going a lot faster. So I think that people maybe caught on a little bit to what they were supposed to do, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people are AFKing in there as well. You know, you see people go up to lumber mill and they're standing in that little bush close to the flag. And so I guess they're pretending that they're defending if someone's coming, but if someone's coming, they're just AFKing, not doing anything. Um, so I don't know. A lot of people are just trying to AFK their way through it, which I guess, I mean, I don't know, I guess.
Yeah, that must contribute to it taking 10 minutes or more than 10 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like every person that doesn't do anything makes it a lot harder, especially when, you know, you can't just actually go in and, you know, easily 2v1 or something. Like if you don't have PvP gear, you can't 2v1 people. I mean, maybe if you like kite them around and do a bunch of stuff, but you can't just go in and like PvE them down or whatever. It's not happening. And I mean,
Yeah,
I
I think
noticed I
that's gonna
couldn't
be.
even.
Sorry, you go.
Yeah, I was just like, I couldn't even I couldn't even solo down their like blood DK from the other team when I didn't have any PvP gear on. So that was kind of rough.
Yeah, I think the PvP gear situation, because most of the PvEers aren't getting any PvP gear. They just want it to be over with. But it's gonna be fun when the heroic week is out and they have to get all the conquests with no PvP gear, like no verse, no item level. Like even if you get a lot of gear in heroic, you're gonna be severely undergeared from a dude in full honor gear. But maybe that solves itself by PvEers dropping their MMR and playing like super low rated. But we'll see, I guess. I'm kind of intrigued. It's gonna be fun to see people being mad over not winning.
Yeah. I mean, I'm expecting to just drop my MMR and just gonna play. I'm not gonna spend any honor on honor gear. I bought some on the auction house, but that's the extent of what I'm willing to. I'm not gonna grind like extra PvE or extra PvP just to get more gear. You know, it's because I don't enjoy it at all really. So I'm just doing it for the power.
Yeah, I get it. It should take more. Like you would have to be really, really, really bad for it not to be worth your time to not get the gear. But you're investing time in a phase of the game where you can't do much else, you know? Like even though it's grindy to get full honor gear now, you're for sure hastening the process of getting your conquest on the heroic week. And on heroic week you have some more things to do, but you'll probably have time to suffer in whatever ranked content you decide to do.
Yeah, because like even on the heroic week, right, there still isn't going to be that much, right? You're going to have your raids, so for us 2 splits and for you guys 3 splits, and you're going to do, I don't know how many keys you're going to have, but whatever, you're going to do some number of 15 delves or 20 delves. I don't know how many keys you're going to have. But outside of that, you can't do anything, right? There's nothing you can do on the heroic week. So yeah.
Well, I'm gonna PvP.
Yeah, well, that's something.
I haven't I haven't really whined about this because it's a super minor thing, but I'm gonna have a go. So I usually buy some PvP gear each season for PvE. It is, even compared to now, it has been even a lower gain than it is, but it's a bit conflicting trying to match PvE and PvP gear. We don't have to talk about that too much, but you've been sharing the same systems with crafts and with the catalyst and such. And now it is actually going to be a loss for me because I am gonna buy it for the raid like 100%. But if I were buying gear for PvP, I don't think investing all of my conquest for waste and wrist would be the best course of action. So like, there is a super small percentage of the people that are getting gimped by this system, at least, if that makes you happier.
Yeah, no, it absolutely doesn't. What would make me happy would be if they just made a better job of just fully separating, because at least from the PvE side, it's been pretty well separated. Like it's been a long time since you had like you could actually do something useful with your time and actually end up getting, better gear from playing PvP than PvE. But now I feel like, obviously you had to, again, it's not much time, but still. So yeah, well, and again, of course, I've understood, the PvP side hasn't had it as nice. They've had to actually do PvE for different reasons. But yeah, I wish they would do a better job of that. Because I don't think most people who play PvP want to play PvE, and the other way around.
Yeah.
I don't feel as bad for the sort of M plus people, because I feel like, M plus and raid are still sort of similar, sort of the same. I can understand the grouping of PvE. I mean, it would be nice if you could just play M plus and just raid or whatever, but I have less sort of sympathy for that, because it's, it's still pretty similar, right? But PvP, it's just such a completely different game,
I honestly think that PvP and M plus is quite similar. Like, that's not an argument to keep them coupled in any way, but like the new age of PvP is very similar to how you play M plus. You pretty much go in and CC and full AoE and press your cooldowns and it's over,
Yeah, but like if you I think, like, if you think about like how most people who interact with Raid and M plus, right? I mean, they're gonna go in and they're just gonna plant their character, and they're probably gonna put two hands on their keyboard or some crazy thing. Like, they're not gonna, the way that they move their character and everything, that is not similar to how you would play PvP. Whereas, of course, I understand, like in higher level M plus and raiding and everything, people are already moving their character in a more similar way to what you would do in PvP. Or I guess, to be fair, maybe in PvP on lower level people also do that. So I don't know, but
I think it's funny because it seems to me that they really tried to separate PvP and PvE even more, especially for the PvP side, I guess. And in this separation, they created not a super, like, let's be honest, it's not a super major gain. It's not even remotely comparable to Season 1 of Shadowlands, but it is still a gain. And it seems like it must be so frustrating to be the people that decided on this system, because I am very sure they did it with the best intentions of not creating something like this, like actively trying to avoid coupling them, and they just made it worse.
Yeah, but I mean, I would be very surprised if this made it into Season 2, right? Like, I can't imagine that, like, in Season 2 that we would have this same thing happen, right?
But how would you fix it?
I mean, I guess there's a bunch of ways you could fix it. You could say that the socket is a PvP socket or something, so it doesn't, much like the item level, it doesn't work in PvE content, for example. I don't know, there's a bunch of ways they could fix it, I guess, but that's probably the simplest way, I guess.
Yeah, I think the only way to make it intuitive as well would be, if you don't want to gimp PvP gear completely in PvE, which I don't think is a good thing to do, because I do know that a lot of PvPers also want to like go into a dungeon and farm some transmog or try out a M0 or whatever. And obviously it's great that PvP gear has some item level to it. But maybe if they separated the gems entirely, so you can't do the PvE gems in PvP gear. There's some other gem that just gives you something else. But then they'd have to revamp that to a decent extent.
Yeah, I mean, they could just have gems that give you, like, 1% increased damage against other players, right? And you couldn't
Yeah.
put a stat gem in it, whatever, right? That would be also another possible solution.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd have to like delay the sockets for the PvP community, and that'd be toxic.
But
yeah, I wouldn't imagine they'd do the same mistake next season. They usually correct after the people get mad.
But I want to just stay slightly more on this topic and just have one more thought about it. And it's just, you're saying like obviously there needs to be some usefulness of the PvP gear in
Yeah.
PvE, right?
Yeah, I
But
think so.
the more I'm thinking about it, why does that have to be? Because the PvE gear is almost useless in PvP. Like even if you try hard, really, really hard in PvE, you would have to, before it becomes useful in like against like the honor gear, you need to have full mythic raid gear, right? I mean, if you're like, I mean, the gear is so bad. Like if you compare now the best PvE gear you can get versus the best PvP gear you can get in PvP, it's like 40 item levels or something, right? It's like a ridiculously large difference.
Yeah, right now that's true, but for the later part, like when you're actually getting vaults with high item level or doing mythic raids or high M plus or whatever, obviously you wouldn't want to downgrade your gear, but PvE gear becomes very good in PvE as well because you run into the opposite problem where you don't want to, like, you don't want to over DR your verse, or some specs do, but mainly you want to get rid of some verse, and then the only option is PvE. So what you're saying is technically correct, but it's very inflated pre-PvE starting or raid starting. So I think the way they've done it is, or like the idea of the system is quite good because the PvP gear in PvE is super low item level. It's like normal dungeons unless you spend PvE resources to upgrade it. I don't know where the line needs to be, but imagine you're playing PvP and you've only played PvP, so you've sold your leveling gear and whatnot, and then you're trying PvE, you want to just do a dungeon. Obviously, your gear needs to mean something in the content. Like, you need to have some gear. And I think that's what this is trying to entail. But maybe it's become worse with the delayed PvE start. So they're getting unlocked at the same time, and then the really low item level PvP gear is kind of not so bad.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, I agree that it's probably the issue is sort of exacerbated by the staggered unlock, where I guess PvP is almost ahead right now of the PvP curve, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which that's definitely true, but yeah, I just wish they would, you know, I don't feel like there needs to be that. I don't think the gear needs to be that good. I think that because obviously, if you're gonna come from PvP and you're gonna try PvE, it's not like you're gonna jump into a Mythic plus 10. You're gonna jump in on a lower level content, right? Already, if you only have gear from PvP, your first sort of experience in PvE isn't going to be on a high level. And I think the same could be true the other way around. So I feel like just nuking them completely in the opposite content would solve all of these type of issues, and I don't think it would have that many adverse effects. But
Yeah, I don't know why I don't know why the upgrade PvP system works as it does, because before you upgraded PvP gear for PvP, so it increased item level. But since they changed it after Shadowlands, where it was an issue in PvE, they made it so the only part of the item level you increase is for PvE. But maybe that's completely redundant. I'm not sure. It might have become a leftover from, they just changed, they didn't think to remove the upgrade part. They just felt like, let's change what you upgrade so it doesn't affect PvE as bad.
yeah, I guess. Speaking of things that are redundant, how did you feel about heroic dungeons coming out this week? Have you been doing like a lot of them? And I mean, are you expecting to wear any heroic dungeon gear into the heroic week?
No, I don't think so. The exception would be weapon or trinket, since you could get them to 593. I think technically I would get better gear from from absolutely min-maxing the heroic gear and upgrading the few pieces that would be an upgrade. But I'm not gonna farm heroic dungeons for specific pieces to get 3 item level. There's no way. So I've done a lot of dungeons because it was on my... When I've farmed 180 crests on 2 characters and like 140 on my 3rd character, someone told me that the little balls in the air gives you crests.
Yeah.
So I'd been farming... I've been doing 18, so 36, and then like I done almost 50 heroic dungeons when I realized I didn't have to.
Okay, wow, you did a lot more heroic dungeons than I did. I think I did less than... Oh, well, no, wait, right. Well, apart from my crazy farming where I did like 30 runs of Arakara on my 2nd warrior, but if you disregard the random trinket farming thing, I didn't do almost any dungeons, like any heroic dungeons outside of probably less than 10 heroic dungeons total on all my characters after that.
Yeah, I might be off with a few dungeons if you got crest that counted towards the cap in some other content, but I did a lot of heroic dungeons. That was all I did when it was released. I logged in and then I capped one of my characters day 1, and then the next day I capped the other character, and then the next day I capped the 3rd character, or that weekend or whatever. And then once I managed to have the time to cap them all, the next reset has come around.
Okay.
Or maybe there wasn't the time actually, since it was released Tuesday, and then I don't know, it took me a while to cap them, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I didn't manage to do it really quickly, but a lot of people were playing heroics, so it wasn't really a problem to play. You just plow through them, almost like you did normal dungeons.
Yeah, I guess that maybe is something to cover quickly, but yeah, they were very easy. Like, you would expect them to be the same difficulty as M0 usually is, right? On expansion launch. But they were very, very easy. Not that M0 dungeons usually are very hard, but like, this felt like the normal, you're just pulling everything. I mean, whenever I've been playing them anyway, I just pull everything from the start of the dungeon to the first boss, AoE everything down, and then you keep going pretty much. That's pretty much true in all the dungeons, right? Even when you play it with pugs, because even if the other people die, I'm the tank. I'm like, it doesn't matter how much you pull, you can't die. There's nothing doing anything to you.
I mean, compared to this, the old M0s are actually super difficult, because even like the first set of Mythic Zero dungeons you did with pre-heroic gear, like it was actually a challenge. I can't remember specific points, but I have for sure sat and wiped in M0 a couple of times. And the dungeon takes like 20-30 minutes. Like when you did a world tour, you weren't done in 2 hours, like not even close.
No, it took like an evening, right? The first week. The second week it was a lot faster, but the first week, because it always used to be 2 weeks where you do the M0 sweep, right?
So yeah, exactly. So I don't know if it's because we've had more time to get more green gear. Like if we have a higher item level compared to what the M0 is supposed to be than you did before, since they were available right away. That might contribute, but I feel like this was
But I mean, the only time
significantly easier.
The only time in between was the early access period, right? After the early access period, heroic dungeons were available right away. So it was really only like 1 weekend, right? And I mean, at least for me, I was away the whole weekend. I was only playing the actual launch, and I was away the whole weekend. So I didn't feel like you had that much gear going in. I don't know.
I had bought full gear from the auction house and stuff, because obviously you didn't know how difficult the content was gonna be. So I prepared my 3 characters for doing heroics.
Yeah.
And then they were just complete face roll.
Yeah, they were, surprisingly easy. It's going to be interesting to see how that translates, because at least on the beta, people said that the M plus dungeons were brutally hard. And then it turned out that they didn't even turn on the plus 20% increase either. So I don't know where, at some point, the difficulty is going to have to start, and it's going to be interesting to see where that is. Maybe the M0s are just going to be completely brutal.
I think so, because if you remember, like we're effectively stepping into an old level 10 with no affixes, I guess, but still.
Yeah.
That should be a lot more difficult.
Plus the mythic mechanics, right? Because I mean, usually Mythic Zero has 1 more mechanic per boss than heroic dungeons do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only the scaling, it should also be that we actually only now get the full set of mechanics that the bosses actually have. So
Yeah, that's gonna be a learning curve as well.
yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I didn't even do all of the dungeons, but I feel like the Dawnbreaker is going to be an annoying one. That felt like I did it only once. I mean, it wasn't bad. We didn't wipe or anything, but that felt like a much harder one than some of the other ones. And I don't know. I heard people were saying like something about the second boss being so hard, being a pug killer or something. I didn't have much issue with it, but I'm assuming that there's something that I missed with it, because people are saying that
In
it's going to be
Dawnbreaker?
in Dawnbreaker. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you need. There seems to be a lot of healing requirement on that boss, but you should kill some sort of. It's some sort of Court of Star system where the boss gets weaker the more mobs you've killed, essentially, or some specific mobs. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
right. Yeah. I think actually I saw that it was like a three stacks of a buff when I did it. So I
Yeah.
think I just didn't know about that because I hadn't done the dungeon. But it was fine. I don't know if because my group was okay or just because I don't know if it does mostly damage to the tank or to the group or whatever. But it didn't seem that bad when I did it. It wasn't really a problem. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see on M0. But people were saying that dungeon is going to be brutal at least. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm thinking this might be the. Because I'm trying to remember exactly, but this might be a season where I am not expecting at all to be able to clear the vault content straight away. Because normally we manage to get the highest reward from the vault the first reset of M+. With the increase, since you effectively have to do a 20 or 19 or whatever it would be in the old system to get the max reward in vault, I'm not sure that's gonna be great to do in the first reset.
I think you're surely doing it because you're going to have 4-set and everything now this time around. You know, right? You're already going to have one reset of splits in your back when you go in and do them because they're not going to release until the Mythic week. So I think.
Don't you still think it's a very high? It should be a very high difficulty, and with most people, including myself, having very little experience in the dungeons.
I don't know. All throughout Dragonflight, doing a 20 on the first week, even like in the old season's gear, was always very easy in all of Dragonflight, right?
I don't remember it being very easy. I know we've done it, but I felt like the entire guild didn't do it. Like everyone didn't manage by themselves to clear the content.
I mean, at least I know that every season in in every season in Dragonflight, I don't remember about season 1, but at least definitely every other season, and maybe I think even season 1, I know that my fiance had full maxed out vault on the first week, and so maybe there was still someone in our guild who didn't do it, but then that was probably also a little bit for lack of trying, honestly, or they could have played with people who were a little bit more into dungeons. But I know that was always the case because I was that in some sense I'm not usually worried about being able to do that myself, but I was usually worried like, are we going to be able to do it for her the first week? But yeah, that was always fine. Maybe not doing it, on the Wednesday, but
maybe we have different, how do you say, emotions connected to the memory, because you're probably right, since I think I've done it every season. But there is an interesting thing with the different roles when you step into M+ or higher content. It's a bit of a sidetrack, but like I think as a healer or a tank, you are a lot more scared of trying higher key levels. And I've been playing with you and a bunch of other DPS over the years, and when you see a +10 whatever key, you're like, fuck yeah, let's go. Send it. Easy clap. Like, let's just get through this. And I think you don't really have the same emotions as a healer and a tank, and that might be influencing me.
Yeah, definitely. I think, so obviously I feel like in a lot of the week ones, you need a lot more tanks than you have tanks in the raid usually in a guild, right? So
yeah,
I've been tanking a lot in a lot of the week ones. And it's definitely different, but I feel like probably healer definitely has the most. I think healer probably has the most different job or the most tougher job, especially on week 1, since everyone's more likely to not know the mechanics, right? And that usually ends up landing on the healer when it's on a level where you don't get one shot, which you don't on a +20 on the old +20s. You don't get one shot by anything, almost. It hasn't gotten to that level really where, unless there are some mechanics maybe, but usually even mechanics you're supposed to dodge, you don't get one shot the first time around on a +20, which will be a +10 now. But yeah, so for sure on a healer. But I think also there's been a very big difference between doing it on the Wednesday, or like the reset day, and doing it on the later in the week as well. Because people know the dungeons, people get some more item levels, and usually that makes a huge difference as well. But yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see in the heroic week. But I'm thinking that it's not going to be so hard since you're going to have a full reset of heroic. And you're like, you're already going to have full forset and everything,
Yeah, we'll if we remember, we can look back at this conversation. I'm not sure what I predict, but I'm skeptical of easily clearing the max vault content. But maybe you're right and we'll have enough gear and it doesn't one shot. But
yeah, we'll see.
I know as well, for the first day I'm gonna be playing with an off tank and a brewmaster as well. So I know day one of M Plus is gonna be a rough one.
Yeah, that's gonna probably be a lot harder. Yeah, Brewmaster doesn't feel very tanky. I think it's been kind of a more squishy tank.
Yeah. Are you gonna abuse Dark Fair in any way?
Have I what?
Fair.
Darkmoon Fair.
Are you gonna abuse? Yeah.
Oh no.
Are you gonna use it?
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, I go whenever because I hadn't finished all my quests, like the side quests in the zones, So yeah, I've been running around getting the Darkmoon Fair buff, and then doing that. So and then also for doing like world quests and stuff. So yeah, gotten some extra rep from it, but not. I mean, not much. Not like saving up any rep tokens or any of these crazy things. I've just gotten some extra from it, but nothing crazy. What about you?
No, not. I have already completed most of the rep. I'm not really doing world quests and such for fun. I'm gonna get renown 9 easily on. I have 1 left on 9, and then I'm thinking I'm gonna try and get 1 to 12 because then you get an even, like a correct number or an extra 30 crests from what I have now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that the Race World First people were holding off on all their rep just to get the Darkmoon Fire buff, but I haven't been. I'm not gonna be bothered. I actually really like this about the expansion launch so far. Like there are for sure things you can do to get minor advantages, but they're so individually minor that you can just actually do what you want to some extent.
Yeah, I think that's because the reason why they do that is that they actually, I think someone mathed out that you can actually get renown 24 for Mythic Week, right? And I think that's why they're doing it, because then you get that extra crest, and that's actually going to be big for them. It's going to be big it would be big for us as well, but it would obviously be even bigger for them since they're definitely using that heroic one for the entire progress, and they're definitely upgrading pieces with all of their other higher crests, the gilded crests. So.
Yeah, I don't think I can be bothered when. Yeah.
I mean, it's too late anyway, right? I mean, you would have had to start from the start if you wanted to do it.
And there's a lot of things you would have to do. Like, if you don't want to just blindly commit to maybe being able to do it, you would have to do so much planning. In order to have the time to do it.
Yeah, because I mean, you would have to do all of the rare sweeps, but you would have to wait with all of the rares until Darkmoon Fair was up, and you would have to do a lot of things to make that work. Which it's kind of annoying, but I've come to peace with it a little bit, just because it's not because I sort of feel like it's not too big or whatever, but it's because I've sort of come to the point where I think that I wouldn't actually use that heroic crest because of the way that my crafts are going to work out. So I think I'm gonna hold off on my first craft until I can craft a mythic level weapon for my offhand anyway. So I think that it doesn't actually matter for me. So because of that, I'm okay with it.
Maybe I'm getting soft due to my old age or something, but I am okay with it just because I feel like it must be somewhat rewarding for the people to do absolute degenerate farms to get big picture wise a very minor gain.
Yeah.
Like it seems to be even though I would be okay with an almost tournament realm sort of solution for both PvE and PvP. I do get that a lot of people are enjoying the whatever RPG or similar systems of the game.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess we don't have to get all into that again. But yeah, I'll say that I'm still holding my position of where I don't like this crazy grind giving you 1% or 0.5% extra. I don't love it. But yeah, it'll be okay. I'll survive it.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Yes, there actually is. I actually had a crazy. I don't know. It's not an announcement, and it's not. What do you call it? It's like a. It's not even sure to be true, but it's like there's like a potential that we're gonna see some crazy things for season 1 and plus.
Okay.
There's some sort of speculation. I saw, Megaset, the Mistweaver player.
Yeah.
She posted on Twitter a picture of. There's like an NPC in Dornegal who's called Agmera. And the NPCs, they have like a little thing under them where it usually is like a guild for a player, but it has like some description of what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And this NPC is tagged as Mythic Keystone Vendor.
Okay.
And then you might think, well, that's just the guy where you go and get your keystone if you don't have one, or you downgrade your keystone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But on the opposite side, in that same room, is Lindormi, which is the NPC we had all throughout Dragonflight that did exactly that for you. So that same old NPC is still there, and there's now a new vendor called the Mythic Keystone Vendor.
Okay, I missed this, but this sounds great. If it has some sort of possible way to get keys, what are the speculations?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I haven't seen it, and like I don't think WoW had picked it up. I didn't really see much discussion. I just saw this one Megaset tweet about it, and then I just read some comments on Twitter about it, and some people were saying, "You're gonna buy some transmog gear from it or something," and someone linked something on Wowhead where it said like some items related to the character, but then someone else was replying, "Well, that's the gear that that the NPC is wearing. That's like the costume of the NPC. That's not the table of things that it sells." And it didn't really say anything, I think, about what we don't know what it's going to sell. It doesn't sell anything right now.
Okay.
So
Well, that's intriguing.
Yeah, so it's very intriguing. I'm a little bit surprised that I haven't seen more speculation about it. Maybe it wasn't Wowhead or something and I just missed it, but I just saw that one tweet about it and that was it. But that would be really interesting.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know Dratnos has had some sort of cook where you could get like a resource when completing keys, and then once you get enough resources, you can buy or re-roll a key or something.
Yeah.
So maybe they picked up on that or something similar. Because if it is a vendor, would you re-roll? You wouldn't re-roll a key at a vendor that you can talk to and see the inventory of, right? Like then it'd be a dialogue sort of.
No, but it couldn't be like imagine that you have like imagine that you have a resource that you get at the end of the dungeon, right? You just get some random, or it could even be Valor Stones. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It could even be Valor Stones because that's kind of the same thing, right? But whatever. So some more resource that you get at the end of the dungeon, and then you go and buy a new key from this vendor, and then it costs this new resource plus it costs one mythic keystone. So you sort of pay with your existing keystone, if that makes sense, right? So then it becomes like a somewhat of a transfer. Because if it's just doing a straight reroll or something, then then it doesn't feel like a vendor, right? Or like if it has like the dialogue thing, then it feels more like something else.
Okay, but would you? Okay, if we assume it's a way to change the dungeon, like I mean because it could be something to do with levels and whatnot, right? But let's just assume it's a reroll of some sort. Would you like it to be targeted, or would you like it to be a random reroll that's not gonna become the same key?
I mean, I would probably still prefer some form of reroll because I just don't wanna. I don't like the targeting too much because I just don't want it to be the whole tournament thing, But I mean, I don't know. It depends how it works. I mean, it could technically also it could. It doesn't even have to be that you. I guess it doesn't even have to be that you buy a new keystone, right? It could be that you buy an item that can increase your keystone's level by 1, or you buy an item that can reroll your keystone, or really anything, right? There's a bunch of different ways this could work out.
Yeah, that's That's very hype. It would be, for me, the biggest, the absolute biggest improvement to M Plus would be acquisition. So I'd be super happy if it was either of those, us either affecting the level or affecting the dungeon.
Yeah, it would be really sick. But now surely it's gonna end up being selling some stupid transmog or something, you know. But it would
But
be
like
really
on it,
cool.
yeah, that's a lot worse. But I do think M Plus could have a lot more cosmetic rewards, or at least there should be a lot more rewards for the big span between the portal keys and the rank 1 keys, because it's not like I care too much, but it is fun in the PvP systems where you have like actual breakpoints and you get something for it that's bound to the season, because PvE gear has a tendency to be forever farmable, right? But
Yeah.
if they introduce some sick mog when you get all 15s or 13s, I don't really care. That'd be an improvement as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. This is like one of the things that I'm most like almost hyped for season starting, just so I can see what that thing is gonna do. But I'm so ready to be so disappointed when it's not
Yeah.
actually doing anything that I want. But
But I mean, is the text Keystone Vendor? What did you say?
Mythic Keystone Vendor.
I mean, oof, what could it be if it wouldn't be the Keystone? Like you wouldn't name the vendor that if you're selling transmog, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Right, it's a bit weird. Like if it said like pizza vendor, right, and then it didn't sell any pizza. That it just it feels wrong, right? So I don't know, but it
It
could
might
just
just be something pseudo boring where they've changed. Like they could just change what happens at the weekly reset in your vault, and maybe you just got a Keystone Regent, and then you could pick the first key of the week, because then they would also solve the M0 trick that you might want to explain as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would be one way to solve that. Well, they would solve it by letting people always do it. But yeah, so people would effectively, instead of opening Vault on the first week, what people would do is they would go into Mythic Zero or M Plus, it doesn't really matter, and then open the chest at the end of the dungeon, but not auto loot it. And just see what was in there, because there would always be a keystone there if you haven't opened your vault, because you don't have a keystone. And then you see like, okay, well, is this a keystone that I want or not? If you don't want it, you just don't loot it and you do another dungeon, and then you check again after, and then you keep doing that until you just have all the keystones that you want. So if you had like a whole team, you could just go and spam M0 dungeons and grab all the keys that you wanted.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've let you do this for a long time now.
Yeah, and to be clear, it affects what dungeon it is, but not the level. It stays at the same vault reward, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you've unlocked like a plus 20 key for the week, you will always get a 20, but you can effectively you can just choose which key you want if you're
Yeah.
willing to play some low level dungeons. Yeah, because even if you do all the M0s and you don't pick anything, you can start doing it +2 or whatever that you can farm infinitely until you get the key that you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is well known in the pushing community, but I wouldn't be like it's not something people talk about a lot. So I would guess that there's a really big chunk of the community, even the ones active in M Plus, that doesn't really know of this system or
Yeah,
this interaction.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, I know I've told people about this. I usually don't do it that much because, like, it's not that I think that it's a crazy exploit and I'm gonna get banned or anything, but it's really boring, right? It's extremely boring to go start running all these dungeons every week. But yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think
know.
I've only done it when you're playing in a team, because then you're kind of more incentivized in a way, because then you could get, because the entire team has the same few score upgrades or something, or whichever key you've been working on, right? And then if you can get a couple of that key, you're happy, because then you can pretty much, obviously not guarantee, but you can increase your chances of getting that one key that you really want. And yeah, but I haven't
Yeah,
done it for like LFG or like just opening the vault when we've been playing with 0 to 2 other pre-mades. We've just opened the vault and sent it.
yeah, we did it the last week of season 4 when we were like a 4-man pre-made. We did it in the most cringe way possible, where we opened one vault and picked out a key level that we needed score from for Ruby life pools. Then we played Ruby Life Pools and we depleted it. Then we played the one level lower, and we timed it. And then then we go back and then we try and pick out another one on the level we wanted, and we kept doing that until we timed it.
Okay.
So that extremely cringe way of doing it, but obviously that's kind of useful.
Yeah, it's the last week as well, so you didn't want to risk getting 3 of them in case you only needed 2.
Yeah, exactly. Since it was, but
Yeah.
didn't do it for anything else this season because it's kind of cringe, but it is really good. And I mean, you would assume that if Blizzard didn't like it, they would have done something about it, since this has been around for such a long time, and it's not a secret. I mean, surely not, maybe not that many people know about it, but it's definitely not a secret, you know.
Yeah, I think this might be, now that, yeah, that might be what the vendor is for, unfortunately. Because that would make a lot of sense, to just make it so you choose your key every week. And they haven't talked about changing the acquisition part in any other way.
Yeah.
But they have been kind of sort of hush, or maybe not hush, but they've announced really randomly when they've done these M+ changes for the War Within. Like, they didn't say they were working on changing the affix system. I'm pretty sure they said they weren't going to change the affix system, and then they just did one day.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, this would have been, like, if it was actually the thing where where it up, it fixed the reroll system in some way, I would be surprised that didn't come up, because there was a big round of interviews now, right? Like, there were a lot of people who had interviews now with Blizzard, right? I think Eon was out there, Morgan Day was out there, a bunch of different, and those what I called Michael Bybee or whatever, like all these people who do interviews. There were like a bunch of them. Like, there were some online interviews, there were some people live at Gamescom and everything. So if that didn't come out at any point during those interviews, that would be kind of surprising, since I think that most people would say this would be like a huge fucking W if this actually came through, right? And it would be like big news if this was actually confirmed by Blizzard. So
yeah,
it would be very, very, very weirded out almost, or very confused if they had this thing and they didn't tell us.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but then it's unfortunately probably something along the lines of what I'm speculating, that maybe it's just a way to decide the first key of the week, or
That's still a W though, right? That's still good. That's still better. It's a step in the right direction, but it's not.
But if you compare it to some sort of system where you could re-roll your existing key midweek, it's nothing.
Yeah,
right?
for
Like,
sure. It's better than nothing, but it's very little compared to that. It's pretty insignificant in that case. But it was fun to speculate about it for 10-15 minutes though.
yeah, that's hype news actually. Since the biggest hesitation I have from playing M+ is just it is time, and that's basically acquisition, right?
Yeah,
Feeling like you're not playing the keys you're wanting to play. So yeah, that's good news. Let's hope for the best.
yeah, for sure. Did you have anything else you want to talk about this week?
Yeah. So how do you end the podcast?